America prepares to mourn the death of Katherine Chancellor on September 3rd and 4th on YNR, I can't get out of my mind the final scene of Jeanne Cooper ascending the stairwell, ad-libbing the line, "Good night." But after we say goodnight, before we go to sleep each evening and drift into another world of dreams, does our subconscious ever give us clues from people who have passed over, will pass over, or are currently passing over? Our resident dreamweaver, the host of our Reawakenings segment, Yvonne Ryba, says, yes, it does. Check out Yvonne's website at YvonneRyba.com, YvonneRyba.com, and sit a spell while she explores dreams in which our elders ascend the stairway to heaven or otherwise cross over to the great beyond. Hi there again, Yvonne. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Chris.
Wonderful. Well, here we are, already late August. Time for another dream or two.
Yeah.
Terrific. Well, I have one that ties in, again, to our special guest. We're airing part 2 of Beth Maitland's interview, in which she talks about the late Jeanne Cooper, who played Katherine Chancellor on the show, the Grande Dame. What a great gal she was.
Yeah.
And her final scene on Young and the Restless was last May. Nobody really knew that Jeanne was ill or that she would pass away in the next several weeks. But I almost feel like Jeanne maybe knew. In the last scene, her character, Katherine Chancellor, was escorted by the gal who sort of plays her daughter figure on the show and was trying to help her to the stairs. And Katherine put her hand up. I've got it. I'm independent. I'm fine. Even though she had just had a surgery in the show, the character herself. And Katherine ascended the staircase for the last time. Halfway up, she turned around and she said to the Jill character, "Good night." And it turned out that was an ad-libbed line. I really think Jeanne knew, deep down, her soul knew that was maybe her swan song. And I was reminded of a dream I had about 11 years ago. My grandma passed in 1998. I was very close with my grandma. She was a big fan of soaps, by the way. Loved Young and the Restless.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my gosh. Loved Another World. And this dream that I had was about 4 years after she passed, and it was very otherworldly. My great-uncle at the time, who was like a grandpa to me, was very ill and in the hospital, again, for several weeks with a condition, and we thought he was getting better. I have this dream where I'm almost like it felt like at the Grand Canyon. It was really sort of bizarre, a great big sort of gorge canyon area, and I'm walking along and I'm with an old man, but he's always sort of a step or two in front of me, and I see my grandma, and it really felt like a visitation. It was like, oh my gosh, grandma. It was one of those really palpable dreams where you felt like maybe it was a visitation. So it was a positive dream in that regard. And after I chatted with my grandma, I continued to follow this man, walk with him, down to this sort of bridge across this chasm, this canyon.
Yes.
And it was sort of like the bridge in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It's sort of thin, narrow. Yeah, you don't want to cross that, right?
Scary.
And there was a younger guy standing at the bridge, and we walk up, and the old man is allowed through. And then I'm with the old guy, and the younger guy stopped me, and he said, "No, you can't go." He may have said you can't pass, but no, he put his arm down. And I woke up shortly thereafter, and I think I woke up right away because it was like, oh my gosh, my grandma. And that was sort of like the overwhelming feeling of I had had an encounter. And then, oh yeah, by the way, I had this old man in this dream. So strange. About an hour or two later, early in the morning, the phone rings, and it's my great-uncle's daughter who told me that my great-uncle had just passed away overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh my gosh, that feels like it was him with me in this dream. And the fact that my grandma was there and this whole bridge thing. So I've got to ask you, what does it all mean?
Well, there are different types of dreams. And when we first started doing this, I think I did a quick sort of what kind of dreams we can have.
Yeah.
There are message dreams where our subconscious is telling us to do something or warning us or helping us. And there are dreams where we're sorting out things that happened that day. Mm-hmm. I call those filing cabinet dreams. Mm-hmm. But there are the very vivid, intense dreams. They're like visions, just like you said.
Yeah.
And they can be a total connection with another person. a message, if you like, from the other person, telepathy, whatever you want to call it, an impending death, sometimes a birth. It doesn't have to be a death all the time, but since death is such an intense thing,
yes,
that's what we pick up on. And I remember telling you several dreams of family members, of my own, who had given me dreams when they were about to go.
Yes.
This is what you got. You had from your uncle, I am about to cross to the other side.
Wow.
And here we have the abyss, okay? With
the
this,
abyss.
This rather scary-looking bridge, which had a guide, surprisingly enough, this young fella that died at the bridge. And he told you that you couldn't cross.
That's right.
He was there to help your uncle across, but you couldn't. And your grandma was there, of course, to help the whole thing and let you see that this was okay. I mean, he was going to go into a good place, as it were, to calm your fears about anybody dying. A lot of people get very upset when a family member dies because they don't have a belief system or a faith in what's going to happen.
Right.
And it's very scary to think that your loved one has been either blotted out or might be going somewhere not very nice, depending on what you were taught when you were a kid, what kind of religion you were brought up in.
Sure.
But here you were given absolute confidence that he was going across the chasm to another country, if you like, to another world, another dimension.
Another world.
And that he was going to be fine.
Yes.
Okay, and that you couldn't cross because it wasn't your time.
It really was comforting, and I felt like the sensation of my grandma being so loving and so present and, like I said, palpable, that there was no doubt to me that had to do with my great uncle passing and that he was going to a good place.
Yes.
It sort of freaked me out. Was this in real time, so to speak? Not that time is a concept beyond death that we really understand, but he apparently had passed right around the time I had this dream.
Absolutely. And some people have reported seeing the person, actually waking up and seeing a figure standing by the bed or they're doing something in the house. They turn around, the figure's there, and then it disappears, or it says, I love you, or I'm going, or whatever. It doesn't have to be a dream. Sometimes it's an actual visitation. People laugh at this and say, oh, it's rubbish, there aren't any such things.
Right.
But there are, and people have seen them, and they're well documented, and I've experienced these things too. So I know what this is about, and that's what you had. You were very close to him, and the fact that your grandma was there was to let you see that she loved him, she loved you, she was saying, in effect, he's coming with us.
That's right.
He's coming over here. We're coming for him.
And like I said, very comforting. And my goodness, the bridge, the crossing, you can't cross. I think that it's pretty clear what it was about. But the fact that it could have been, and I believe you when you say, really, sort of a real-time thing, like a dream version of a visitation from a spirit, that hopefully those that hear this are encouraged, if they haven't had a dream like that there is another place, and it's a good place. So, and have you had any sort of crossing over dreams like that?
I've had a lot of them. Yes, I have. I've had a lot. Now, there's one that fits in with the theme that we have when you talked about Jeannie and going up the staircase. And it's not my dream, it was my mother's dream. And I was visiting England, where my mother lived, and she said to me one day, she said, I keep having these dreams where your father is calling. He's shouting for me. And my father had passed over many years before. And when she said this, and I'm thinking, oh, whoa, what's this, She said, well, he's shouting, Stella, Stella. And I'm thinking, what do you want? In the dream, which is typical of my mother, she wouldn't have figured out what this was about. And I'm thinking, oh, that's typical of my mom. So she said, well, I'm saying this. Anyway, she said, well, then I've had this dream, and this apparently had gone on for some time with him calling her over the past, weeks or months or whatever. Anyway, she had this very vivid dream where she lived. It was a one-story small house. It was called a bungalow in England, right? And in the dream, she had a stairway from her living room up. Okay, couldn't see where it went, just went up. And halfway down the stairs, my dad is calling to her in the dream. And he's shouting, Stella, and he's holding his hand out for her to come. And she is walking up the stairs to him, and I am down below in the living room doing something with boxes. okay, cardboard boxes, packing them, whatever. And she's shouting, Yvonne, come on, you come too, come on. Well, I don't pay any attention because I can't hear her, apparently. And so that was the end of the dream. So she said, what do you think? And I said, well, Mom, it looks like Dad is telling you that when your time comes, he is going to be there. And he is going to help you over, all right? So we have the stairway.
There we have the stairway.
Symbol of crossing over, all right? Going up to a higher dimension.
Yes.
Whatever you want to say.
Yes.
And I am in this, and I couldn't figure out what the heck I was doing. I just thought, well, I'm in the dream because she put me there. You know, I'm an important part in this whole thing.
Right.
And that was what it was about. So anyway, so that was in about, it was 1997, and she said to me on the phone later on when we'd come back home to Texas, she was talking to me, and she said, now you are coming across at Christmas, aren't you? And I said, yes, we're definitely going to try to come acroff.
Across the pond?
Across the pond. And we talked a bit, and this was on a Saturday night in the middle of August, which is pretty much the anniversary. We just passed it. I was talking on the phone. I said, okay, well, Mom, call you next week. And she said, well, I want to watch. The lottery is just about to be announced. You know, Britain has its national lottery. And if I win, she said, I'll call you back. I said, well, that's great. I look forward to it. And I love you. And that was the end of it, right? Well, on the Monday morning, she had called the doctor. And she told him she didn't feel well. And doctors do come out to the house in some cases in England. And he'd come out and couldn't get an answer, which alarmed her next-door neighbour because he knew she was in. So after an hour or two and nothing had happened, he got the police to come, and they broke in and found my mother lying on the floor as if she was trying to get to the door, but she had died of a massive heart attack.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Wow.
And, of course, the police had phoned us up and told us that, you know, my mother had been found dead. I mean, it was just awful.
Yeah.
And I had to rush back to England to organise a funeral and clearing the house and doing all the things you have to do.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm in her house with one of my granddaughters who's helping me to pack boxes. And here we are packing the boxes, and I suddenly remembered this dream. And I thought, wow, I am in the living room packing boxes. And this imaginary stairway that came from this, you know, in the dream, came from this room upwards was, you know, my mother leaving.
Wow.
You know, this life. And that's where she did leave this life, in the living room.
Wow.
And she was okay because Dad was there to take her across. And it was a real comfort to me. And in a way, I felt my dad had given my mum the dream, but it was for me as well, because she told me, and I knew that it was like, well, let's let you know that your mom's going to be okay. And
I'll be darned.
It's all confirmation.
Yes, it is. And if you've ever had a dream like that, don't dismiss it, because those stairways, bridges, all of those things are pretty clear symbols for ascension,
Absolutely.
crossing over. So don't dismiss them and see them as sort of proof. In as much as we can prove anything metaphysical, you know in your gut it's proof.
Well, there are a lot of things that, you know, we take for granted, and we discover a lot. There's so many discoveries all the time through science of how the body works, you know, how the brain is working, how the mind works, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
And we've got more and more evidence that we are totally connected.
Yes.
That we can. Telepathy does exist. People say, oh, it doesn't. It does exist. My grandmother, by the way, had a dream of her brother, and she was only a young woman, just married. She was in her probably 20s, and she woke up and she said to my granddad, so-and-so's dead. And he said, oh, and it was in the wartime, okay? And he said, oh, you're just, you know, worried about him. She said, no, I saw him die. And it was exactly as she had seen, and she was so upset. She got up and walked downstairs to the kitchen and actually wrote on the wallpaper the time and everything. She looked at the clock, put the time down, just to, you know, I've got to do something to prove that I've had this.
Yes.
And she'd seen him. He was a medic. He was rushing onto the battlefield, you know, with the stretchers and things to get people's, the wounded off. And it was in France, I think, and he was shot by a sniper who was up a tree, picking off, you know, people who were coming on, which, you know, is a no-no, but that's what happened. And that's how he died. And they didn't know for several weeks until eventually word came that, yes, he had died in this way. And it was exactly as she had described it to the family. So there was great evidence that she'd had this dream beforehand. She told everybody. She had the date and the time down. And then it actually was proved when the government sent word, and the War Office sent word out with their telegrams, and people come out and told you stuff. that was how it happened. So, yeah, it does exist. It's happened.
And so dreams can be bridges to the other side.
Very good.
There you go. It all ties together. It is all connected. We all are connected. And I thank you so much. That's so cool that you had a dream with a stairwell. And, these little pop culture references that spark remembrances of my dreams. It's always cool to hear when you've had or someone else has had sort of a similar dream. So listen to your dreams, folks. Listen carefully. Well, Yvonne, I look forward to connecting again in September.
Thank you. Well, I enjoyed it, Chris. It's always great to talk to you.
Fantastic. We'll talk soon.
Okay, love. Bye-bye.